Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here, Basketball Rewind, and I am joined by the coach of the most, Coach Roache, as well as Beyond the Locker Room. I will be sharing both of their handles, if they let me, down in the description down below. So, welcome to the space, both of you. How are both of you doing, first and foremost?
Feeling
Doing
good.
good.
Yeah, can't complain. We're ready to get into it right now.
Perfect.
Springtime means hope. Hope springs eternal.
Yes, yes. As always, we got to remain hopeful for the season at some level, regardless of whether you're looking at the past isn't very hopeful, but looking at the present or in the future, where the real hope is, I would remain hopeful. So really quickly, we have 6 games left at the time of this filming, and I hope that we will do well. We will see. So far, it looks like we might actually make 14 wins for the end of the season from the trade deadline. So that is a good thing. We just finished the Miami game. Any thoughts beyond the 3-point shooting, which was abysmal?
Well, we were talking just before we started going on air. I think how the bench was used last night was interesting. They only went
Yes.
three deep, which kind of tells you where Nick Nurse is with the rest of his bench at the moment. So, I mean, Thad can ever see a game like last night, which really was a Thad type of game, actually. Like you think
Yes.
about the type of like personnel that was out there, he probably could have played out there last night once he wasn't matched up around Bam. Everybody else he probably could have dealt with. And considering that even there in Miami, who doesn't score any much points, Thad could even get a look there. It kind of tells me that, I think we saw an article yesterday, I thought, floating around that this might be the end of the Thad experience. Let's put it that way in Toronto. So
It's
I
been
think
short lived.
so I think that the lack of playing time last night pretty much kind of some sums up where things are at the moment.
Yeah. And coach?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just continuing or I've been impressed with Jeff Dowtin. The more that I see him play, it's not the scoring, it's the defense, literally. He's the best point of attack defender I think that we have right now. And, you know, I think he's going to be used going into the postseason, into the playing game. I think you have to. It's not so much that he has to bring this big scoring punch. If he defends, he hits guys when they're open. That's all he has to do. It's not hard. The rest of the guys will take care of the scoring. Like when Trent is back and he's playing with some of the starters, which he will be. It was a decent game from Precious last night, the best game he's had in a long time since he's
Yes.
been demoted to the bench. And look, he just has to defend, take his shots when they're there, keep it simple. One of the biggest things with Precious's game that fans and coaches alike, I believe, talk about is sometimes guys that do too much. Keep it simple. That's how he had that big stretch there before the trade deadline when he's playing so well. Just keep it simple. Let the game come to him. Take his shots when he can. The rest will take care of itself.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. Just really quickly about Jeff Dowtin. I personally really like his game management. The thing is you look at other guys, not to pick on one guy or another, but some guys come in from the bench and they're looking to just shoot whatever they get their hands on. The fact is that he looks to pass the ball. He looks to just really distribute. And again, his game management for me is top notch. The tough thing is who do you cut? And I don't know if we want to get into that today, but it is a tough decision. I do hope that he is a Raptor next year. My question is that would you still be, and this is kind of a good angle into the draft talk, into the future talk, are you, if you bring him in and you give him a contract, are you still okay potentially taking a guard?
I am. I think this team needs as much talent as they can get. So I don't think we're in the position that we can kind of say, you know what, we can play for a position. We need talent anywhere we can get it. So I'm of the mindset if the best player is available happens to be a guard, yes, we take the guard. And if Dowtin ends up being a backup to said guard in the future, if worse he's or if worse he's the third, he's the third point guard on the team next season. That's fine. Already have to upgrade for what where we're at right now.
Agreed. So, two prospects today. We're probably going to split this into two parts of a video, but we're going to be talking about Nick Smith Jr., speaking of guards, as well as someone who's not a guard but would have helped yesterday because of their shooting with Taylor Hendricks. So, who do you want to talk about first?
Let's get Nick Smith out of the way for my. I wouldn't mind talking for him. He's a fascinating prospect. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
um,
So,
yeah, let's
so
get old
really,
Nick up
really
there.
quickly, Nick Smith Jr. Very interesting. So I'm not sure what his wingspan is, but just a quick bio on him. I believe he's going to be one of the younger, if not. I don't think he's the youngest, but he's one of the younger guards coming into this draft. He's a freshman. He should be 19, if I'm not mistaken, at the time of being drafted. But he's also a 6'5" guard. My dream has always been to have DeJounte Murray on this team. So I'm always okay with taller, bigger guards. But the thing about Nick Smith is he had a very interesting year. He played significantly less. And part of that has been because he's been injury plagued. He came in with a lot of the talk about him was he was able to create his own shot. He was able to be a good distributor. He's able to be a cell creator as well as get guys involved. He's not selfish. I saw some of those things on the court, but I do have certain concerns. So, with that being said, do you got what, maybe the smallest sample size of all the guys that we've looked at so far? What do you guys think of his offense?
Go ahead, Coach.
The offense part, like the numbers are not good for Nick Smith. I'm just looking at some of the numbers, like 37% field goal percentage.
Yep.
That's not good. That's not good at college, especially.
Right.
About 34% from three, which is it's okay. Um, I just look at some of his numbers as well, like under 2 assists a game for a guard. That's concerning to me, and
Yep.
especially if he's coming to the Raptors. We have a few playmakers on this team, but if you're going to draft a guard, a point guard, you're going to want a little bit more playmaking, I would think. Um, his offense, it's a little concerning to me, but I do see upside with him just because the 6'5" body, probably I'm saying the 6'9"
You're
wingspan.
struggling to sell this to me.
I'm struggling to sell it to myself right now.
Yeah.
Basically, what I'm more or less trying to say, the numbers aren't good
Yeah.
for Nick Smith joining this team. And we are a team, I think we can all agree, in the half court, we struggle to score points in the half court. It's been a little bit better since the trade deadline, adding Pirtle. But I think at this spot in which we're in, there will be better players available for us to select, more so than Nick Smith. Not to say he's not talented. I think there is upside there with him. I think he has good body control. I do think he's
Yes.
good at getting into the paint. Um, I think the question the Raptors will have to ask for themselves is, do we want that, or do we want someone who can spot up and hit jumpers around Pascal and Scotty moving forward? Because I don't know if that's Nick Smith.
Right. And beyond?
Yeah, I mean, Coach really summed up a lot of my concerns too. But I think the other part of it I'll add to it is that flat out, man, kid needs some meals, man. I mean, he's at 195 soaking wet. Like he's a slim dude. And like that type of body, I don't like for guards in this case. It doesn't hold up well over time, especially the type of player he's not out there just bombing threes. He's going into the paint, and you gotta ask yourself, will he be able to take the punishment with the type of like frame he has? The other part too, watching him a lot coming down the stretch of the SEC season and then going into the tournament. Something Arkansas was on quite a bit late in the season. Obviously with a lot of seeding involved.
Yeah.
I thought a lot of times watching Arkansas games, like I don't even hear his name get called. It seems like he'll go through like stretches of game, you don't even know he's out on the court. And it's like, oh, he's on there. Oh, he's on there. You'll see someone finally make reference to him out of a timeout, and so he has this. He feels like he floats a little bit too much for my liking. And I'm just like, I'd rather have a young player that's assertive in this case, where you got to kind of pull him back, than one where it's like, you got to kind of like, get them to kind of get going. And I always get nervous when you have guys that, if they're already kind of floating in college, where you could have gaps of the game where you just don't hear his name called. Like the last thing the Raptors needs in our players kind of like that. So in my mind, the shooting's still a bit streaky for my liking. So he's not my favorite choice. I think how I feel about. We'll talk about the other Arkansas guard at some point, but I'm not a huge fan of the Arkansas offensive system. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arkansas had an interesting tournament run. Maybe we could talk about that the next time we're on here. But for me, it okay. The question for me is really how much of it was his injury versus how much is this him as a player. And I can always already see James Welch in the comments saying he's not good. I give me good prospects, and we're getting to them, James. We're gonna get to Case and Wallace soon, but for today we're gonna talk about Nick Smith. And what's interesting is some have mocked him as high as 4, and so when I watched him.
When you said that, I was like, "Wow, 4."
Yeah, like we were talking about before, and I think I left the two of you shocked. But yeah, I think the interesting thing is that he does have a knack for getting into the lane, like you said, but at the same time, he doesn't create rim pressure. He seems to have that in between game that some others are missing. So for me, and I'm just gonna pull up my notes right here about him. I think it's that in between game that does seem to show people enough flashes, and I do think that his combine will dictate where he ends up. I can see him falling to us, but yeah. So I also think that in terms of the pick and roll, this is something that I noticed is that he did seem to thrive in terms of his ability to run the pick and roll. He knew when to snake dribbles. He knew when to. So it was a pretty decent, I mean, if you can't get all the way to the rim or you don't want to get all the way to the rim, having a decent floater game is something that does help. And I think that it can be quite impressive for someone who can't get into the, all the way to the hoop. Now, that being said, I think that the Raptors could use a guard that could actually get all the way into the to the rim.
I think I won't get into the other person who I think in my mind skills wise is a closer comp to him who I prefer over him. But the same size and height, but we'll get to him when the time comes. But I think I think also too is like question I have to ask myself is, I mean, is he actually a point guard or is he a shooting guard? Because I see him more as a shooting guard.
Yeah, I see him more as a combo guard. Yeah, he play both.
Yeah. I don't even see that much playmaking from him in my mind. Like, I mean, I guess he has it technically. He's got the skill set, but what I see him just like a flat out shooting guard. But I know they'll say combo guard because maybe of the height and stuff like that. But yeah, I just think when it's all said and done, I think he's not. And that goes back to coach's point. If you got a team that struggles already with passing and sharing the ball, I don't think he's going to add to moving the ball. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I'll say this. Go for it.
Yeah, no. I was gonna just say, especially if you're not able to create that rim pressure, which is something that
yeah.
I'll say this about Nick Smith, and I think this is something similar to the way Scotty was in high school as well. Scotty, he played at Mount Verde, big time player at a big time program. Went to college, came off the bench, like never had the big college stats that maybe some people predicted for him. And then when he gets to the NBA, he has this big time rookie season. You see this tremendous talent. Nick Smith in high school was quite a high school player. Like he showed more playmaking, more athletic versatility. It's kind of a question of, what was that fit with Anthony Black like at Arkansas?
You think that this Black's effect might be why he's kind of adjusted his game to fit more with him, who we know is more of a facilitator.
Yeah, it could be, and I'm sure scouts will take that into consideration because this kid is talented. I don't think like the talent's the question. It could be how aggressive maybe he is. I think that's one thing, and kind of like you said, beyond the 6'5", 185 pounds. That's a little frail for the NBA, and I'm not. He'll put on weight, but
I
You
think
kind of worry
25
about
or
injuries.
95, yeah, but either one is not great. Like, I mean, like, I mean, you're 6'5", you better be getting up to about 220, maybe when it's all said and done. Like, like somewhere around that neighborhood, they take the
Yeah.
punishment. And I think that's the reason why our discussion kind of reveals why you have some mocks have them up to 4, and some mocks have them down like the 15 or 16. So I think that's those are the things that I think are coming. Why why that's happening. So
Yeah.
So to switch it to something that's a little bit more positive, because I do agree. When I looked at, and it's funny, I was watching a game from high school between him and our favorite prospect so far, Kaysen, and to me that it showed it showed the best parts of both of them, because I do think that Nick Smith does have skill, but I think a lot of people are still holding on to what they saw in high school versus what they're seeing now. And I agree with you. The fit with Anthony Black, and it's weird because I think he was brought in to be the point guard, but because he was injured, Anthony Black kind of became the point guard and the offensive initiator, or at least that's what I saw in the games that I watched for them. And then that probably isn't the best role for Anthony Black, but it became that role. So it'll be interesting. But one thing that I noticed, and maybe it's the Arkansas system, but I felt like he is a solid defender. I think he's solid at point of attack. I think even though he's small, he's quite wiry, as you would say. He can get through screens, so his navigation around screens with that small frame does help. And and I'm gonna put some of these things on the actual on the screen. For example, the Ringer is saying he's basically shades of Jamal Murray and Tyler Hero. I think he does have that jump and bounce in his game that he could be that. Obviously, like you said, he's gotta hit the gym a little bit more.
yeah,
So
he could also
thoughts on that?
he could also be Will Barton. Pretty much what you're describing is Will Barton.
Will Barton now or Will Barton?
Will Barton's career, right? If you think about it, not much
Okay,
different.
because
The height's
Will
not
Barton
much
now is
different.
not.
I mean, Will Barton is about a streaky 3-point shooter. In this case, at times, probably shoots a bit better than him right now. Doesn't get all the way to the hoop a lot of times, but he has that nice mid-range game when he's in his prime. It's
Yep.
kind of the same type of player in this case here, but defensively is different. I think he is a better defensive player than Will Barton ever was. But
Yes.
physically, and how he is from an offensive standpoint, I mean, I say that's floor. He could be, what I'm saying is floor. He could be Will Barton. Now to your point, he could be Jamal Murray if it's the other way around. So that's how it is with all these guys, right? And even the floor, Will Barton's a 10, 12-year vet when it's all said and
Yes.
done. So it's not like no shame in that, but like in theory, he could be that too, is what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like,
Yes. And again, for the people watching, don't worry, we will be getting into much higher level prospects soon. So hold on. But yeah, I do think that there is upside there. I do think he is interesting. I think that he could drop to the Raptors. Of the guys so far, I actually would prefer other prospects. I'll just be completely honest. But he is interesting, and I think that there's something there. I do want to keep an eye out for how he, I guess, recovers come time for the combine. He is a name that I think that people should definitely keep an eye out for and go from there.
right. I
From
guess
there, yeah,
so I just say, I guess, as we go through the discussion of all these, just the caveat when it comes to all these players, there's two major variables that we all know that are coming. You mentioned one of them, the combine, because
yep,
we like to see verticals. How that starts raising guys, and of course, my man, was it Jay Billis in this case? Was it wingspan?
yep,
So we know those two things start shifting numbers and shifting slots, and of course the balls bouncing around, and we're gonna find out where we land or whoever else lands, and that's gonna determine a lot as well too of who gets selected based on those probabilities.
I
absolutely.
always
Because
find it
yeah,
interesting. Sorry,
yeah,
I always find it interesting too. Like college scouts love to go to high schools. Let's find myself a 6'5" point guard. And in
Mm-hmm,
the NBA, it's the same thing. Let's
mm-hmm,
where can I find a 6'5" point guard? Everybody wants a 6'5" point guard to some degree.
mm-hmm.
Nick Smith lucks out in that category for him. Not to say I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I'm just saying the numbers are not good, but there is talent there, and he's got good size.
Yes, and I mean, again, to just boost him up a little bit, because I think we were all kind of a little down on him today. Again, I think that he not only has an ability to, if he commits to it, get into the lane and potentially build that. Because I don't think it's an athleticism thing. He just, for whatever reason, he just stops and likes, not going quite all the way in.
Well,
So I
that's the
think he
thing.
has, yeah,
It's the physicality of it, right? So there's a psychological aspect to it, like how much punishment are you willing to pay for, right?
yeah.
And I feel like I used the Will Barton scenario, who's a very wiry guy about the same height. He too has a similar shot diet too, where he could get there. You would think he could get there, but he doesn't always get there. In this case, throughout his career.
Yeah, that's actually that was a very good. I mean, it both a positive and interesting way, like a comp. So yeah, I guess we'll just take a break for just a second in where you guys are. So thanks for staying with us. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for the next video where we're going to talk about Taylor Hendricks, who we're a little bit more higher on. At the end of all of these, if I get these guys back, if not, they'll just tell me their list. We will make our big boards, so to speak, at the very end.